Hi, and welcome to Game Dev London. We are thrilled to be here today as guest hosts for the podcast. And we are offering our massive thanks to Game Dev London for giving us time and space to chat to you all. I'm Leon. My pronouns are he, him. I'm head of inclusion and belonging at Sumo Group. I've been in employment advocacy, change management, and strategic leadership for over 15 years, with a focus on inclusivity in the workplace. And I've been in the games industry for coming up to 4 or 5 years now. Super thrilled to be here. I'm also a member of the Writers Guild of Great Britain on the Games Committee, and I'm an administrator on the UK Games Industry Slack, supporting nearly 6,500 members of the UK game dev scene. I'm very proud to be a member of both these, and I'm joined today by my fabulous teammate.
Hello, I'm Alif Trevathan. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Inclusion and Belonging Engagement Manager at Sumo Group. My background is not in games at all, really. My background is more academic, and I did a master's in gender and sexuality in London, and then I moved on mainly into charity work, a lot of volunteer work, some union work, and then I got into clinical negligence sort of by accident, and developed some really useful skills there, and then somehow ended up here feeling very lucky and very grateful that I love the job that I have. I love the work that we do. I'm very excited to talk about it and shout a little bit about it today, because we've got some incredible people that we both work with who invest so much of themselves, and I really feel like they deserve to get a little bit of light shined on them. So I'm very excited to delve into it.
Yeah, likewise. Today we're going to be chatting a bit about supporting folks through difficult times and how we support our people, both as an industry and specifically within our own studios, because I think it's safe to say times are a bit tough in multiple different areas and multiple different kind of intersecting places and ways and times, politically, financially, culturally. We're seeing multiple different axes of discomfort and suffering. We'll pick up on the mood will pick up, I promise, but to just sort of set the scene, we know that outside of our industry there are shifts towards some more closed-minded thinking in some areas, some reactionary movements, some things that just make life a little bit less kind than it could be. And then within our own industry, we've of course been seeing mass layoffs. It feels weekly, daily. Excuse me. So that, compounded with external factors, I think is really pressing quite significantly on our folks across the industry and within our respective studios and organizations. And I think it's not just important to acknowledge that the layoffs have direct emotional and professional impacts on the folks who are without work, but it also has great emotional impacts for people who support them, people who haven't lost jobs, the sort of almost survivor's guilt of remaining in your post when your colleagues have been laid off, or seeing your friends and your colleagues and loved ones across the industry losing work. It's very tough. I think it's palpable how sad things are. And so taking a bit of time to talk about how we can support each other in the best ways we can is kind of the focus of today. Excuse me. And I think with a particular focus on how we support marginalized folks in tough times, because it does tend to be the case that marginalized people are impacted more consistently, more significantly than folks in privileged positions, folks who are white, cis, heterosexual, etc. This is not to say that those people aren't impacted, but statistically we will see that marginalized folks on multiple levels tend to get impacted on more multiple levels. Chinsi Muzo and Gabriel Iduo did a fantastic piece recently on a survey that they put together, which was looking at redundancies and how marginalized people were more impacted. I fully recommend, if you're listening to this, go check that out to kind of really dig into those stats. But they do reveal that at various different stages, marginalized folks based on sexuality, gender, ethnicity are disproportionately more affected by layoffs. as well as reactionary sort of external forces and bits and bobs like that. So it's tough times, and I think it's probably worth us sort of looking to what we're trying to do in games as an industry to support our humans, our people, and talk a little bit about what Sumo Group in particular is doing in this area. I'll give us a bit of a background on us and our department in inclusion belonging at Sumo Group. We're a relatively young department. We've been in existence in this form as a sort of branch of the business for about 2 years now, and we are a small but mighty team. Alif and I work as a two-person team across 19 studios of Sumo Group, which is almost 1,750 people, across 4 geographic locations, which includes the UK, Canada, India, and Central Europe. Alif largely handles our employee resource group PRISM, whereas I handle a lot more of our sort of strategic business level projects that relate to inclusion and belonging more specifically. But I think we're sort of entering into a place where we've had a bit of a boom, as it were, in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, and a bit of a pullback from that in some ways. But I think we're sort of what we're seeing on multiple levels is some people saying, we now need to pull back from this. It's not as important. It's not doing what we wanted to. And I think we should get back in a bit and really look at how this work truly supports and can support and uplift our people. So Alif, why don't you give us a little bit of a intro into PRISM? What is it? How's it structured? What's it about, eh?
So PRISM is our employee diversity group, to put it in a nutshell. It's a community that currently consists of 4 sort of main streams, 4 main communities. Those I will talk about in a minute, but PRISM's sort of main goals, which are many and changing and always continuously evolving, but primarily we exist to promote inclusion, equity, equality, and well-being across group. And PRISM's existence is part of groups, like Sumo Group, to be clear, is part of group's ongoing aim to create a workplace that celebrates our difference and encourages our collective growth, and prioritizes education. And together we hope to foster an environment where we all feel safe, we all feel welcome, and hopefully we all feel represented. In terms of how it's structured, as I say, it's got 4 main streams, so 4 communities that Sumo Group has sort of committed to representing and supporting, and those communities are Chromatic Stream, which represents underrepresented minorities, supports our underrepresented minorities, Ultraviolet, our community that supports marginalised genders, Wavelength, which supports our colleagues that require support in terms of ability and well-being, and finally Iridian, which supports our LGBTQ plus colleagues. So that's we have it structured in such a way that those 4 streams are supported individually, but then we also have sort of events and things where we come together and work as a full community. We wanted to make sure that at no point were we having those communities operate in silos. Rather, we do come together as a community of marginalized people, because that's principally what we are. And the kind of oppressions or systematic oppressions that we face, obviously, and it can never be compared, but certainly we can understand each other and build community as one PRISM that has its 4 separate streams. So those are the key communities. In terms of what the community is, it is just that. It's a community in a really genuine sense. I think I really want to get that across, that especially when considering how we're supporting people, and we'll go into this a little bit more later on. But principally, it really is a genuine community, a genuine space where our people come together, not only in a sort of, maybe a networking sense where people from different studios come together to share resources, but also a place to genuinely connect. And when I say share resources, it may be sharing resources about, say, our benefits, but it may also be sharing resources about anything, anyone coming into PRISM and needing support of any kind, whether it be workplace or work support, or it be social, mental, that kind of support is also provided genuinely from people who are passionate about maintaining and cultivating this community. And I see it all the time, and I always talk about this, and I know that some people listening might have heard things like this before, but seeing how a community, genuinely each person in it is genuinely committed to its success is really inspiring, and is primarily one of those things that I really wanted to shout about and talk about, because I think we've got something really special here. This is a group of people. We're now 350 plus strong, and we're growing all the time. It's 20% of our business. That's huge. And I'm so proud, and I can't take credit for the creation or maintenance of the community, but I certainly think I can say that it's something I'm incredibly proud to see grow all the time and change all the time. And with each year, we're faced with the challenges that the industry is facing on a kind of macro level, but in PRISM in a micro level, and then beyond the industry, like Leon was touching on, all the difficulties, struggle, turmoil politically and otherwise that we all seem to be facing as a society. Not to be quite cliched, but it's difficult right now, and I think it's, as Leon has said, it's important to acknowledge that. We can't pretend it's not true, and doing so would be of no benefit to any of us. So acknowledging that within our community has been one where people feel that it's safe to share that they feel impacted by whatever may be happening, in the UK or abroad, and knowing people come into this space knowing they can ask for support, knowing that they will receive it genuinely. That's, I think, you might hear me say that a lot, but because it's authentic and it's sincere and it's really inspiring. So that's what I'll say in terms of what PRISM is for now, but I'll go into more detail as we go on. So that was a sort of introduction to PRISM, I guess.
Yeah, it's really helpful. I think
yes, go on.
Because I think, just sort of to echo that, I've been very proud of the sort of organic kindness. I'm going to really kind of, I think that focus on kindness really comes through in PRISM. Like, we've had some, because it's difficult times, you'll sometimes see difficult conversation topics, difficult, things that are quite vulnerable for people to raise, both in the sort of sense of someone who might be in multiple different marginalized identities, coming to a space and putting vulnerability on the line and saying, hey, I'm really struggling with this on the one hand, and then on the other side you've got folks who will come along and say, hey, I'm struggling to understand this, and they'll come as they are, they'll come with the language that they know. And I think one of the things I'm just super proud of is that PRISM is very much a organically learning space. Folks will come along and sort of say, hey, this language you're using is a bit outdated. They're very kind about it. They're very patient about it. Maybe consider using this phrasing in the future. And the reason is this. It's very, 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 very patient. It's very sort of, we say assuming good intent and acting with good intent across the board. And I just think that's lovely. But I think additionally, sort of when it comes to PRISM, we've got the sort of the community, which is open to everyone at Sumo Group. Anyone can join in. Anyone can sort of jump in and have a chat and get involved. But Ella, could you tell us a bit about the structure in terms of the what our diversity champions and the PRISM sponsors and the exec sponsor? Tell folks a little bit about how that works.
Yes. So delving into the structure a little bit more. Each stream has representatives or pioneers, champions, I guess it's obviously the word that we use for it, diversity champions, who work to represent the stream, but who also work to voice the stream's needs, to identify the stream's needs, to come together with people, sort of stakeholders inside the business and outside, to discuss PRISM's growth. Our diversity champions are incredible volunteers. I think they are community representatives, but they're, as I say, they're pillars of our community. They organise events, they provide safe listening spaces for all of our members, and they're actively involved in the wider inclusion and belonging policy that we have integrated into PRISM. So we have DC teams, diversity teams per stream. They're volunteers, incredibly passionate and committed people who work so hard, and who I work alongside every day, and who I find inspiring in so many ways, because they're setting aside their time do something wonderful that benefits the rest of us. So they play a key role in PRISM, in a studio and employee level, where they provide like visible representation, and they also take lead on grassroots inclusion and belonging activities and campaigns, with the general aim that PRISM shares, which is to promote diversity, inclusion, equity and equality across Sumo Group. To be clear, Diversity Champion does not actually have to identify as a member of the community stream that they're representing. So we have that open because we understand that that's also necessary. Diversity, a diverse team for each stream is also really helpful. And on a more detailed level, they have 8 hours per month that they dedicate to PRISM work, and that's how we make it work, with the support of their managers, their line managers and their day-to-day jobs, my support as well as I suppose as their PRISM manager, for lack of a better term, and that's how they make it work. And incredibly, I kind of like phrasing it as an opportunity. It's a volunteering opportunity, because their responsibilities are so varied, which means naturally that they have the opportunity to upskill and to develop in really cool ways, because they have we attempt or try to or we do provide training of varying kinds. At the moment, we're in the process of sorting out mental health first aid training and public speaking training, because of the kind of responsibilities that DCs have from week to week, from month to month. I'll go into specifics in a minute as to what their monthly responsibilities are. But as part of their DC roles, they're called upon for public speaking, as I said, for mental health first aid. They're community managers of their own streams. They do social media management as to support that community management. They work in teams, so they have to delegate their work. They produce copy and marketing materials. And as I say, on a monthly basis, they're responsible for event coordination and management. And obviously, this is all with my support. And when I can call on Leon, that I get his support too. So they have this varied sort of toolkit now of skills, which as we progress and as we grow, I hope to develop more and more, help them support and develop those skills more and more, because they're so useful. They're what do we call them? Transferable skills. So really always incredibly proud of the work they do, and incredibly proud to see how PRISM has an effect on their skills in general, because they can take the things that they learn from PRISM and apply it to their day-to-day work as well, which is really exciting. And sometimes I hear from them saying, oh, having this insight into not EDI or inclusion belonging, but perhaps having an insight into let's use the word social justice, for lack of a better term at the moment, having an insight into a social justice mindset that they might not have had prior has affected their work in really positive ways. It might have affected the way they design, oh, I don't know, for you're an artist, it might have affected the way you think about the kind of characters that you want to put on our screens. You can have I can have all sorts of impacts. But when they come back to me and say, having this insight has actively impacted my work, I don't take credit for it, because it's not my credit to take, but it's a wonderful thing to see, and it just shows me the power of the community we have here. So we have the DCs, our diversity champions. I get really excited, so I probably talk too much. I have got notes in front of me, but I get really excited. And then for each diversity champion team, so per stream, we also have a sponsor. So our sponsors are sort of representatives at a studio director level, and their work is slightly different. So they're studio director level advocates across Sumo Group. So they represent the streams they work with at a studio director level. They also act as organizational role models for our marginalized people, and they help to provide further kind of strategic level involvement. So if some of our DCs are more mid-level, then having a senior level sort of insight or perspective is really helpful, both to, again, develop their skills, but also to help continue to support PRISM in integrating it into our business structure, meaning that PRISM has teeth. PRISM's choices have consequences, which was really important to us. You come to PRISM with a problem or an issue, or a positive. that we can then take that on, hear that, and have a response, have some productive response. We can do something about it. We've got teeth. We can enact change, which is, I suppose, ultimately what we're looking for. So our sponsors, a little bit more on them, they're involved at a grassroots level as well. So we want them to be, and they're wonderful. I'll say who they are in a second. They're involved at the grassroots level, but they're also regularly active in our stream channels, and they attend all the events that we put on where possible. I'll go into those events in a minute. They work really closely with their diversity champion teams. They aid in the creation and design of events and large campaigns. They organise the DC's action plans for each year, and they help them manage their yearly and monthly calendars. And also they act as mentors, I think is an important piece of info. They act as mentors, and they are available and accessible to our DCs when they're needed. They are very busy, so this of course requires a level of time management as well, but they're all incredible, and they make themselves as fully accessible as they can. Shall I go into saying who's who? I think that might be nice.
Yeah, you might as well give them all a shout out. They're doing some great work, and they are well-known folks in the industry, so why not give them a shout out?
Fabulous. Okay, so for Ultraviolet, our marginalised genders stream, we have Jess Gaskell, who's Director of PMO at Sumo Group. Wonderful. I won't go into how amazing they all are. Just know they're all fantastic. And I think it is worth saying incredibly committed to this work. For Chromatic, which is our underrepresented minority stream, we have Darren Yeomans, who's Studio Director at Atom Hawk. For Iridian, our LGBTQ stream, we have Terry Goodwin, who is Studio Director at Lab 42. And finally, we have Scott Kirkland, who is Studio Director at Sumo Digital Warrington. So those are our 4 PRISM sponsors, who are, as I say, our mentors and Studio Director level advocates. And then finally, above that, to sort of finish the structure, even though there is a little bit more on top, but I'll go into that in a second, we have 1 executive sponsor. And our exec sponsor functions as an board level, operations level, board level liaison between the Senior Inclusion and Belonging Committee, which I will touch upon in a minute, and I'm sure Leon will too, and the stream sponsors. So the executive sponsor takes a really proactive approach to understanding the current historical and to some degree political issues related to diversity and inclusion as it relates to all of our community streams. It's Andy Stewart, our CFO. He has a really genuine interest and passion in the subject matters that affect PRISM. And he has a lot of responsibilities as part of his PRISM role. I can touch them really quickly. So he looks a little bit at finances and PRISM's budget. He's a key stakeholder in the development of our group EDI strategy, which he obviously does with Leon. He shares a corporate and strategic perspective of EDI with the sponsors. He also sits, as I say, on the IMB committee with other senior level staff. And there are other bits and pieces, but some of them might not be so interesting. The main thing is that he sits on the IMB committee, and he acts as a liaison between the stream sponsors and this committee that is in the process of being formed, and it's going to be really exciting. And we'll also have, as we keep saying, some teeth. They will have a lot of teeth, in fact, and we'll be able to enact change, which we're very excited about.
So many teeth and tooths. So many
yes, teeth and all sorts. So that's the structure of PRISM. Sorry, Liam, go ahead.
No, I was jumping in there to interrupt you, but like I think it's probably important to note that I think Alif and I are sort of uniquely positioned, and we're very, very fortunate within Sumo Group, because there aren't a whole lot of places across the industry for multiple reasons. It might be resource or both financially, time wise, etc. So we are very, very fortunate to have someone in Alif who is our ERG full-time community manager and engagement manager. So she's being very, very humble, but a lot of the sort of we talk a lot in this field about ERGs doing work outside of their own sort of day jobs, outside of their roles, and getting burnt out and tired and being expected to spearhead and teach and to know and to understand. But a lot of this work is quite quite specific. It's quite it takes a lot of time and experience and sort of learning. Anyone can do this work, to be clear. Like, I'm not saying that you need it to jump in, but in order to create structural change, it's have a go. But when you've got folks who are, say, level designers or junior marketeers or such like, they're not going to fix your business for you. And I'm super proud of PRISM and the sort of ways that we have created a space for folks to get involved at as many different levels as they want. If they want to just sort of touch base and if they just want to lurk, they can. If they want to get involved in the conversations, they can. If they want to step up a bit and become a diversity champion, they can. They can be at any level. It doesn't matter what. They can. Day one, you can join PRISM. Day one, you can be a diversity champion, or you can have been, on your journey for many years. It's really very open and sort of accepting in that way. But I think Sumo Group didn't have an ERG before 2019. It didn't have anything like this, and so building it from the ground up is no small feat. And I keep saying I'm really proud, but I am. And I know a lot of studios who are in those sort of early stages of building welcoming, safe communities for their people, and looking at sort of like pulling the curtain back a bit and sort of seeing where the structure lies, but also understanding that your people who are your representatives or people from ERGs or folks who are sort of hanging out in these communities, they may not be able to see what's happening at those high level board spaces. And so the pressure that can be put on people to like, you're black, or you're from the LGBTQ, you're gay, you'll understand this, you can fix it, you can teach us. And there comes a level at which it's not good enough to just say, hey, you're from a marginalized community, you do the work. We say, no, we're already doing work. How are you going to put the how are you going to commit from a business level to support these sorts of things? But I also think it's important to note that there's a lot of fear around even getting started. But whatever resource you have, whatever is available, make a start. Just make a start. You make something, anything, you can build on it from where you start from. Because the world is always changing, this work is always changing, the needs of people are always changing. So you need to be ready to move and pivot and do. We're all just doing our best. And I think that sort of is, in this very volatile world, all anyone can do. No one has a crystal ball. No one has that sort of lottery numbers. That'd be great. But because we don't know what's coming, we're all just doing our best as we're going along through multiple different historic events. We're all sick of them. And kind of, I suppose that sort of, touching briefly on the sort of the group inclusion and belonging committee, which is in the process of being created. PRISM does have a direct feed into that committee, and we'll probably not spend too much time on that side of things, but that feeding into very senior members of the business who are looking at what our company can do structurally to support this work and to support our people is where PRISM feeds in. So we've got this real kind of upswell of folks, because how our people are safe and comfortable in the workplace impacts how safe they feel as humans, how well they can, how well they want to stay at a place of work, what their work output looks like, how happy they are. Like, we just, surely most of us want our people to be happy. And I suppose that sort of leads us to asking the question about, Alif, how about you tell us a bit about PRISM as a safe space, and like how, because I know I've had folks come to me and say, PRISM is a very, very valuable space to me. And I wonder if you want to sort of share a little bit about what that's actually looked like in terms of creating those safer spaces for people in these tough and turbulent times we're rolling through right now.
Yeah, I think it's like it's almost two-pronged, in that people who are already in PRISM have this shared understanding of how we're going to choose to communicate with one another, which is through always assuming good intent, but also making sure that we're acting with good intent, especially when considering our language. So because this space is mainly digital, obviously we're working remotely, we're working via our computers, we're working from our homes, we're perhaps not having, in-person communication, even though we might be having it over calls, it's not quite the same. So our community is mainly kind of held digitally. And as such, language is so important. It's key, in fact, to making sure that our community is safe. And so it's this thing where the people who are already in PRISM and who are really active members are really mindful and intentional with the language they choose to use and the ways in which they choose to receive the language used by other people. So as I say, you're always assuming good intent. So you already have that kind of foundation where the communication is compassionate, it's kind, and there's always this level of consideration when you're taking part in an interaction. Then you've got people who come in who may be new or who are new to PRISM, but not new to the business and don't really understand its purpose yet or don't know much about this kind of work, and who come in perhaps with questions that we who do work in this field, who are trained in these ideas, might find ignorant or slightly uneducated. But because we've already got this foundation of assuming good intent, people can come into this space and ask questions. And I think there's so much fear, especially when things are really difficult, as to how to provide support to your marginalized family, friends, or colleagues. You don't know how to do it. You don't know where to start. You're seeing the news, you're seeing the headlines. You know it's horrifying. You know you probably don't understand the full impact of how horrifying it is for people of marginalized backgrounds. You want to be helpful. You don't know where to start. PRISM is a great place to go in and say, I have this thing, I've read this thing, I found it really upsetting, I know it's impacting my friend, or it's impacting someone in my studio, or it's impacting my family. Does anyone have any advice? And PRISM, to respond to that, will take that question and hold it and honour it and be compassionate in how they receive it. And that's so huge. And I think is really something to be celebrated, because it is easy sometimes to be reactionary and it is easy to be upset. We're all upset. Things are really upsetting. So I think it's really inspiring when I see people come into the space, ask questions. I wouldn't go so far as to say they're controversial, but ask questions that might be a bit delicate, a bit vulnerable, a bit difficult. And to see them received with such graciousness, I think is a good word to use here, with such graciousness and patience, is amazing. And I really think speaks to a level of care and commitment to PRISM's maintenance that is really wonderful to see. They care to make sure that this space is safe for the people who are in it and the people who are coming in. And you can see that. You can see it really obviously if you just have a quick peek into a day-to-day PRISM conversation. It is that. It is coming in saying, I'm having this really difficult moment. I think I might have this. I think perhaps I am this. I think perhaps my sister is this. I think perhaps there's someone in my studio who's this, and I don't know how to help. Where can I start? And people are so willing to be helpful. They're so willing. So I think in that sense, there's a real feeling of it not being reactive, it not being exclusionary, I suppose. And I think people often have a perception that communities like this one exist in relation to oppression, which to some degree is true. The reason that these communities have to come together is because they've been labelled as a group that is separate from the mainstream, right? They've been put aside, and so as a result you come together to feel strong, to feel the sense of belonging. And that is true. And I think to some degree that causes sometimes a feeling of reactionary or reactive, us versus them. And you see that on occasion, and I completely understand why that might happen. I'm sure I've done it myself at points where I've felt that someone from the other side is coming to our space and asking questions that are disruptive. it's really amazing to see how PRISM will take on people coming from outside with these maybe slightly more contentious questions and be able to take them on with grace and with patience. And I want to be clear, the people who come in, if people do come in, it's not happened, and I'm sure it won't, but if someone did come in and had something to say that was actually inappropriate, they would be held to account. That's a wholly separate issue. But if you're coming in with a genuine intent to ask, to be educated or be given some advice or to be pointed in the right direction, you will get that. Guaranteed you will get that, yeah. Which I think is
absolutely. And it's very, we've seen this sort of play out multiple times, but I think it's also, we talk about sort of allowing allyship and sort of community connectedness through PRISM overall, but we also do offer spaces for our marginalized genders and for underrepresented ethnicities to come together more privately in their own kind of channels to do that. And I think that sort of that understanding that also PRISM is excellent, and we do we're trying to do as much work as we can across Sumo Group to improve the sense of belonging, improve the sort of sense of belongingness. I've just said that, but genuinely this kind of sense of a different kind of safety. But we're not perfect. Neither PRISM nor Sumo Group nor its individual studios are perfect, and it is. We say it often. It is a journey, and it is for all studios, for all kind of contexts, for all sort of places that we work and we grow. There's always more space to learn and to expand and to get better and to treat each other better. So it's always starts somewhere. Know you're not going to be perfect. Know that you're going to make mistakes, and getting back up every time, getting back up when things aren't perfect. I'm going to talk a little bit about, just very, very briefly as we kind of, close out this fabulous chat we've been having about, some of the ways in which Sumo Group is looking to ideally, look to the future of our industry, look to support our incoming people, and the future of what this industry looks like and what kind of world industry Sumo wants to be part of. So I'm very, very proud of our, we have multiple external partners that we work with that I'm proud is the word today, apparently, but I am genuinely super proud that we work with and support some incredible external organizations. We're looking to, we've talked a lot about upskilling and helping our folks sort of move into new stages of their working lives. And so I'm very, very proud that we work with Moving Ahead with their mentorship program, cross-company mentorship program looking to accelerate women into senior roles, as well. At least that's the package that we work with, which is Mission Gender Equity, but they offer a whole range of different mentorship options for folks to kind of get involved in. I fully recommend folks have a look into Moving Ahead and get involved in that mentorship program. We're also partners with Limit Break Mentorship, which is a games industry specific mentorship program. Again, couldn't be prouder to say that we support Limit Break. Over 100 of our people at Sumo Group last year were mentees and mentors for Limit Break. I'm a mentor, and it is genuinely one of my, I love it. I take on at least 2 mentees a year. I love my mentees. They've all been incredible, talented, magnificent human beings. So again, if you've ever been thinking, oh, maybe I should get into the break, maybe I shouldn't, do it. I can't, mentor or mentee, can't recommend them enough. We also work with the fabulous Code Coven, who are an accelerator program for folks looking to get into coding and other sort of areas of the industry. Magnificent work they do, magical, you might say, as a fabulous group of humans. And we're also partners with Women in Games, who, as the name suggests, do fantastic work for marginalized genders across the industry. Been going for a very, very long time, and we have historic partners of them. We remain incredibly proud of the work we do with them. We take part in at least 2 events a year with their careers and networking events, where we make sure our women and marginalized folks from across Sumo Group come and share their words of wisdom. So next time that's on board, come hop in, come hear what our people have to say, come listen to the wonderful advice and experience they have. It's usually free for folks to come and watch it online. John hop in, so keep an eye on Women in Games for some more updates for that. And finally, we also work with the Ahead Partnership, looking to encourage kids in schools to get into games, to consider games as a viable career path, because we see a massive drop-off point from marginalized folks who don't think games are for them. They think it's only, I can't code, or I'm not very good at maths, or I'm not an artist. So we see a massive drop-off from school age in terms of encouraging folks into the games industry as a viable career path. So again, very, very proud of the work we do with the Ahead Partnership. And then additionally, Sumo Group as a whole, we are very, very passionate about supporting mental health. We offer unlimited mental health through our UK studios in terms of support. Help at Hand is one of our benefits offerings. We are always looking to expand what we do and how we offer. As I've said, we are not perfect at any level. None of us will ever be perfect. And this world is a mean one at times. So doing what we can, bit by bit, steadily, patience and saying sorry when we get it wrong. Yes. Those are the kind of things I think in terms of this tough old world, and what we do to try and make it a little bit better for our people. I think we're probably out of time now, though, Alif, and which is a massive shame, because we could keep chatting for hours, as we do. We do chat for hours.
Yeah, we do.
So I think, I suppose then all I'll say is, again, thank you so much to Game Dev London for having us.
Yeah.
We are honoured to have taken up some space with you today. If you've stuck with us this long, thank you for hearing us natter and chatter. Go forth, do good things.
Do good things.
Do good things. Be kind to each other. Thank you so much.